is up, everybody? This is Rocky Tiger here with the inaugural first episode of my texture pack review series. This is actually going to be the second time that I at least think that I'm recording this video, because the first time I went to go and start the editing process and only had the wood section and all of the rest of the textures were just nowhere to be found, or at least the video section is. So we're just going to go ahead and jump into it. Today we're reviewing the PumpkinPatch texture pack. This is a texture pack by Staple Shots. The actual texture pack I think initially released about 7 years ago, so this is one of the most tried and true texture packs that's out there, one of the most detailed, and in my opinion one of the coolest ones. It's a 32 by 32 texture pack, so even a medium rig kind of like mine should be able to handle it with some basic shaders like I've got running right now without any difficulty. I've played this in an actual survival game and had no real problems with it so far. So let's just jump into the review. First up, we've got all of your basic wood building blocks, including all the different signs. One thing I've noticed about this particular texture pack is that the textures on the back of the signs are beautiful, and I wish that that showed through to the front. Instead, you've got this kind of paper look on the front of them. Not anything wrong with that. They're definitely really nice looking signs. I'd just like to see a little bit more wood. All right, looking at all of your building blocks here, you've got your oak, your dark oak, your spruce, your birch, your jungle, and your acacia. I really enjoy the dark oak. To me, it looks a lot like, I'm blanking on the name of the type of wood all of a sudden. I was going to say obsidian. Ebony. That's the word I'm looking for. It's got this really nice kind of ebony look to it. I love the patterns on the door itself. I think that's way, way better than the vanilla texture packs, which honestly, the dark oak, I think the dark oak door and the dark oak trap door in the vanilla texture pack are probably some of my least favorite blocks. But in this one, in this texture pack, I think that's absolutely gorgeous. I love what he also did with the oak door and the birch door. I'm not a fan of windows and doors, and the birch door in the vanilla texture pack kind of looks like it just has a giant screen. It's useful for some builds. I know I used that on my beach bungalow on the Beyond Vanilla server, but I like this design way better. This is also really cool. The jungle door has a little speakeasy through it, which I think is pretty clever. I know it's kind of similar to what the oak door has in the vanilla texture pack, but this one I think looks way better. And then you've got the acacia. I'm not usually a fan of doors that have giant holes in them, but I could actually see this working really good, or working really good. I could see this one working really well for kind of like a screen porch if you were going to do that sort of build, or obviously more kind of jungle builds. I'd actually would say if I was going to be using acacia for a lot of stuff, I would probably actually use the jungle door, and if I was going to do a jungle themed build, I would probably use the acacia door. One thing also that I noticed was in the actual planks block, while you have all of these are laid out horizontally, the acacia block is laid out vertically. I'm not sure if that was intentional or what the reasoning was, but it also carries through to the stairs, so I'm assuming that it was intentional. It adds a little bit variety, but I don't know. I honestly kind of wish that it was still facing horizontally instead of, or arranged horizontally instead of arranged vertically. You got your actual regular logs, which I think look interesting. The birch looks, I think, the most similar to the vanilla texture pack, but I like the colors better of it. And the jungle really kind of reminds me of like a darker palm. I don't know why. That's just what it kind of looks like. You got your trapdoors here. Your acacia carries that same theme with the holes through the doors, and you've got holes through a trap door. And I think, again, the biggest improvement that I've actually seen is going to be both the oak and the dark oak trapdoors. Absolutely gorgeous textures. Next up, we got all the fences. You know, again, you got your oak, dark oak, spruce, birch, jungle, and acacia. The only thing I'm noticing about these is if you look at that, it kind of looks a little streaky on the top. I don't know if that's intentional or not. Not a big issue, because how often is someone going to actually just come and look at this fence and go, yeah, that doesn't look right. It's just something I noticed with the fence sitting here by itself. If we actually carry the fence over to more fences, you'll see it still looks pretty much the same. So I don't know if that's done intentionally or what, but not a big issue at all. The fence gates don't have that issue, so I'm just wondering if that's just a little bit of an error on my part, or if that's just the way that the texture pack looks. One thing I do want to point out about this texture pack is that PumpkinPatch texture pack kind of has a gothic, muted color scheme, and it's something that I really like. It's really great for any sort of haunted or darker build if you wanted to make everything look kind of spooky. The first thing that it actually reminded me of was a lot of the old Castlevania games, just kind of that, you know, medieval gothic style, which is absolutely fantastic. I love it. Moving on, you've got some other basic building blocks. You have your cobblestone, stone, and your smooth stone. Next up, you have your granite, your diorite, and your andesite, which I am in love with these blocks. I love the way that the colors are just way more muted and, honestly, in my opinion, way more useful than the vanilla textures. I would never use granite in just about any build. I can't think of a single build that I have ever used granite in the vanilla texture pack, but here it still has a little bit of a rosiness tint to it, which is fine. That's absolutely perfect. You can still tell that it is granite, but using it in conjunction with the diorite and in the andesite, I think, is just a much more interesting color palette of choice, and not just so glaringly is contrastive a word? It doesn't have nearly as much contrast, but still could be incorporated into a lot of builds for just variations in color, and it doesn't just stick out at you like, hey, look, there's granite. And obviously diorite, which is, in my opinion, one of the worst blocks in vanilla Minecraft, looks way better here, in my opinion. Next, we've got your sand, your sandstone, your chiseled sandstone, your cut sandstone, and your smooth sandstone. Again, the colors are a little bit darker with the sandstone blocks. The contrast between the different bricks is much, much higher here than it is in the vanilla textures. And I like it. It's pretty neat. And you've got your stone brick, your mossy stone brick, cracked stone brick, and your chiseled stone bricks. I'm not the biggest fan of the color here. I think that this green may be a little bit too vibrant, a little bit too saturated. I think it actually would look better if it was closer in color to what the grass block looks like. But again, this is a redstone ready world, which means that we're in technically a desert biome, so the grass may look more saturated in different biomes. We'll have to see when we actually, again, hop over to the Beyond Vanilla server in a little bit. Next up are your grass and your path blocks. They look really muted and kind of washed out here, which I think is what they're going for. And again, we'll see once we get over to the Beyond Vanilla server if these look different in different biomes, but I really like the way that the textures look. Next up is one of the few gripes that I actually have about this texture pack, and that is the dirt and the coarse dirt. They are the exact same. I have looked over these things time and time again and haven't been able to tell a single difference between the two. When you have options for two different types of blocks, I think it's just a waste to not have two different textures. So it's a little bit of a minus against this texture pack, but honestly, I don't really use dirt and coarse dirt that often in any of my builds, but it would be nice to have a little bit of variety. And what I would really like to see are some of these sort of gravelly textures incorporated into the coarse dirt block. I think that that combination would be pretty awesome. Moving on, it's time for your basic ores, all of your overworld ores. So you've got your you've got your coal, your iron, your gold, your diamond, your lapis, your redstone, and your emerald. Thing to point out that I thought was interesting was your diamond through emerald over here. The actual blocks of those materials have this kind of almost iron bar like frame around them, which I think is a really cool way of doing it, because really, how often are you going to see a massive emerald? And as you can see, the gold, the diamond, and the emerald block also have this really nice kind of animated shimmer effect to it. Fun blocks that I definitely think would look really cool if you're decorating, say, a treasure vault of some sort. And then you have got the iron, which I love what they've done with all of the iron, or what Staple Shots has done with all of the iron. It's got this really kind of rusty, almost just, I mean, it's ruddy. It's what iron is supposed to look like in real life. It's kind of got this ruddy iron look to it, and I think that that is really cool for a lot of different Gothic builds. Definitely, I like this one better than I like the vanilla texture for the iron block. Really, really cool. You've got your hay block, your carved pumpkin, your regular pumpkin, and your iron bars. Again, carrying this theme with the iron, it kind of looks like that rusty sort of look to it. Really kind of just utilitarian, just very, very simple, straight bars. Definitely something that I would use more often for a fence work maybe in this texture pack than I would do in the vanilla texture pack. All right, back over here, we'll start with the quartz. This is another one of the few things that I have I wouldn't call it a problem, just so much as what I would tweak about this texture pack. Here you've got your block of quartz, and this, I believe, is your smooth quartz. I'd really like to see the smooth quartz not have this dividing line that puts it into different quadrants. I'd like to see it more of an actual just smooth block of quartz, maybe with a border instead, more similar to a couple of other texture packs that I've seen. Next, you've got your chiseled quartz block, which nothing bad about it, and then your quartz pillar, which has this sort of pattern on the top, so it kind of reminds me of the purple block from the vanilla texture pack. Nothing wrong with it. It's a little plain and it's a little bit too light colored, but I'll actually get into why this isn't necessarily a bad thing after I finish the rest of the nether blocks. You've got your magma cube, you've got your soul sand, and you've got your nether quartz ore. Then moving on, we've got one of my other favorite things. This is one of the coolest things I think that this guy has done with this texture pack, is the variation between the nether brick and the red nether brick. So you've got your regular nether rack, you have your regular nether brick, but then this is the red nether brick block. So it's a same color, exact same color pattern, unlike the vanilla texture where it's a much more saturated red versus the regular nether brick. So it basically gives you a chiseled nether brick block, which I think is really cool. The same thing with the nether brick wall versus the red nether brick wall. It kind of gives you that same chiseled block pattern, and really allows you to vary what your builds would look like with nether brick, which is something that I think is just absolutely fantastic. It was a great idea, and I'm really happy with that, because that just this color for making kind of a spooky, almost bloody sort of room, and having that variation is just a stroke of genius. We'll just call it that. All right, here we go. We're going to go to the end block section, and why I think that the quartz isn't so bad even though it's a bit plain, and that's because of what he did with the end blocks. So you have your end stone bricks, your end stone wall, your purple block, your purple pillar, and your purple stairs. And with this color palette, this kind of, to me, looks like it's a little grungier, a little dirtier sort of quartz. The same thing with the purple. It looks to me like you could incorporate this really well into the regular quartz blocks and not have any issue at all, adding a whole lot of variety with a very similar type of build. And then you could also add in your granite, your andesite, and your diorite and andesite, and use that in a combination for a themed build that really works only in this texture pack. You're not going to see mix and match too much of granite and purple, or granite, purple, or any combination of these three types of blocks, but it's something that you can do in the PumpkinPatch pack. So that's actually kind of takes this and makes it less of an issue. Next, we've got your prismarine. So you've got prismarine bricks, dark prismarine, and your prismarine wall. This is something that is, to me, it just makes me think kind of slimy. The prismarine block, I think, looks a little bit more organic here than it does in the vanilla texture pack, and the color theme is kind of carried through a little bit more than you would see in the vanilla Minecraft pack, or the vanilla Minecraft textures. I like it. I think that it's a pretty fantastic addition, pretty fantastic change. It really just kind of looks wet. And if you think about the prismarines being in the ocean monuments, that kind of makes sense. So really great addition. And now we come to the wool. This is, in my opinion, the absolute weakest link of this texture pack. It's not that there's anything wrong with the textures themselves. The textures are fine. It looks like wool. It kind of looks like fabric. Honestly, what it really reminds me of is the old Kirby's Epic Yarn. The problem I have is with the color. And I know this texture pack, you don't necessarily want everything to be super dark. I mean, look at the magma block. It's nice and vibrant, but the colors just are way too bright, and even the texture itself may be a little bit too happy. I'd really like to see these look a little bit more torn up, maybe a little bit dingier, maybe not so clean cut, put some stains or something in there. It just to me puts way too much color and way too saturation into what is otherwise a very, very dark texture pack. These blocks seem to me to be a little bit wasted on it. Now, I haven't really seen these in a lot of context within builds with this texture pack, so maybe they'll work, maybe they'll get incorporated a lot better than they look. But the juxtaposition here between these blocks and all of the other blocks that we've seen so far, these just seem to me really, really out of place, and it's a little bit disappointing. That's also kind of carried on through some of the glazed terracotta, which I think some of this glazed terracotta is just way too bright, not dingy, not dark enough, and doesn't really lend itself well to being used in conjunction with the rest of the blocks in a lot of builds. Maybe I'm just not the most creative, but I just feel like this section here of blocks is just a little bit disappointing. I'd really like to see it carry that color theme of kind of darker and grittier through these blocks as well. Moving on, we've got all of your glass and your glass panes. These, I think, are better than the wool, although I would like to see them look a little bit nittier and a little bit grittier. One thing I did notice was, I believe it's just the regular blue, has this kind of almost light blue, almost turquoise color section in there. The rest of them, I haven't seen anything at all that looks similar to that. Also, the regular glass panes and glass blocks have a slightly different texture on the interior than the stained glass, which is a nice little variation. Overall, not bad. I would, again, though, like to see them be a little bit more muted and a little bit darker and less vibrant. Just my opinion. Next, we've got all of our lighting sources. We've got your jack-o'-lantern, your campfire, your end rod, which I really like the sort of grittiness to that. And then you have another one of the few weak links on this texture pack. You have your redstone lamp and you've got your glowstone block. And as you can tell, when these are both lit up, there is absolutely no difference between the blocks at all, which I find a little bit disappointing. Obviously, when you switch the redstone lamp off, you get a different color to it, but then it's no longer a light source. I'd really like to see the glowstone get its own texture. Right now, this is just a tad disappointing. You have your torch, your lantern, which, if you've watched any of my other videos, I've probably mentioned it at some time. The lantern is my favorite addition of blocks to 1.14. It's just fantastic in every single way. We did not have enough lighting sources, and just having torches stuck everywhere, not my favorite. The ability to hang a light source from an overhead block is just, in my opinion, just perfect. I can't say enough about it. And then you've got your sea lantern, which again carries the same sort of color theme as the prismarine blocks do, which would make sense. Not a bad block at all. Doesn't have, as I've noticed, any sort of animation like in the vanilla texture pack, but I think it works. I think it works really well. All right, next is the row of utility type of blocks. These are all pre 1.14 blocks. The 1.14 blocks are on the next row. So first you've got your bed. I put a second bed, a blue bed here, just so you could see the sort of color scheme or the pattern that they used. I think the bed works better than the wool blocks do. I think if the wool blocks kind of had the same variation in their pattern and in their texture, they'd look a lot better. The color here also is a little bit more muted. You've got some darker parts around the edges. Overall, the bed is better than the rest of anything that uses wool that I've seen so far. You have your chest, which you have a nice little Easter egg on there. If you look and see, when you close it, there is a map, like a treasure map, on the inner lid of the chest. Not bad at all. Your crafting table, which I do like because it does look like it's a chest of drawers, kind of. You could easily use this, stack it on top of each other, and you kind of have a wardrobe or a dresser or something similar to that. You have your furnace, which is, honestly, I've mistaken it for a crafting table from the top because of the grid pattern, but definitely has some nice features to it. There's nice textures on the side that you could easily use to incorporate it into all sorts of other builds. You have your jukebox. This is one of, in my opinion, the neatest blocks of this texture pack because it's essentially, it's just a record player. I mean, the discs look like records, so why not make the jukebox a record player? Fun block to it. Next, you have your enchanting table. Nice and kind of brown and grungy looking. You have your ender chest, which this one is, in my opinion, it's a little bit of a disappointment. I'd like to see it look maybe a little bit darker, maybe a little bit more of a less of a light blue color here, kind of have more of this as the main color versus the almost turquoisiness, but it's not bad at all. Maybe even incorporate some purple into it since you have all the purple particles running into it. I think that would make it look a little bit more, I don't know, dark, which I think is the theme that we're going for. You have your anvil, again, that ruddy, rusty iron look that's been carried through the rest of the texture pack, which is just awesome. Your bookshelf, your note block, your shulker box, and then finally your beacon. Your beacon has the same glass texture as the regular glass blocks do. Really neat looking addition to the game. Again, we'll say this, that the obsidian on the bottom, I think, would look better if the ender chest, which is made from obsidian, carried that same sort of coloration to it. All right, onwards to the 1.14 bricks or blocks, some of the utility type blocks that have been added. The only ones that I think have actually gotten updated are the composter, the scaffolding, and the barrel all the way down at the end, which is a little bit disappointing because I really would like to see some of these get some updates as well. I think that Staple Shots is working on that and just hasn't gotten to it yet, but on Planet Minecraft it does say that this texture pack is 100% complete, but on one of his comments he did say that he was working on getting another update out in the next couple of weeks, so hopefully we'll see these blocks get their wonderful pumpkin patch patchiness added to them shortly. The composter I love. It really does look like it's, you know, dirty, covered in dirt and used. It's just a fantastic addition. The scaffolding block I think fits in with the theme just fine. It's just been darkened up a little bit and I just broke it, so let's put that back real quick. And stacking them up. Fun block. I love scaffolding. It's so fun to break them all. I don't think the bell has gotten much of an update. If it has, it does look a little bit different. I think that is different actually than the vanilla texture for a bell. Not bad. I'd like to see it maybe a little bit darker. It's a little bit too bright yellow. No update, no update, no update, no, not, nope, 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 nope. And then finally get over to your barrel. Which I like. I like the barrels. I've always liked the barrels. I think that it's just a great amount of detail that can be added to any sort of build if you wanted to make kind of, I mean, the banded wood look is just, it's just great. You could use that as a wall. You could use it as, you know, a barrel. You could use it as a, what's the word I'm looking for? A pillar. It's just overall a very versatile block. This row is dedicated to tools and other things. Tools, weapons, armor. You have your leather armor. You have your chainmail armor, which kind of looks like a Crusader Knight. And then you have your trio of iron, diamond, and gold, which to me kind of have a almost a old diver's gear, like an old scuba suit sort of look to it. You know, it kind of reminds me of a Big Daddy from BioShock. Not really sure why, just the sort of way the face looks. Not bad at all, just a little bit scary, honestly, but maybe that's what we're going for, is a little scary. Your turtle helmet looks pretty much the same as it does in the vanilla texture pack, and then your elytra looks very different. I always thought the elytra kind of looked like a bat. This kind of looks like a bat's head. You know, you've got the nose there, eyes, and it look like little fangs and ears. It's really kind of frightening looking, but at the same time, awesome. Tools, so you've got all of your wood tools. You got your pick, your sword, which looks like a club, your hoe, your axe, and your shovel. You got your iron, so you've got, again, pick, sword. Your hoe has turned into a scythe, and your axe has turned into a battle axe, and your shovel there. Your gold tools, where the hoe is now what looks like kind of a magic rod or magic wand. Your sword has turned into a single edge, almost katana-like sword, but obviously not at the same time, maybe more like a cleaver. And your diamond tools, where again you've got your sword back to a just standard long sword, and your scythe is now a diamond hoe. Never waste your diamonds on a hoe. You've got your bow and your arrow, which have been updated, but it doesn't look like either the crossbow or the trident have received updates in this texture pack, which I find a little bit disappointing. I'd really like to see a trident more than anything else. I think would look really cool, maybe with some of that prismarine style that this texture pack has. Your shield, your fishing rod, your shears, your compass, and your clock. You got your enchanted book, your lead, and then that's your name tag, actually, which kind of looks like a collar with a tag on the bottom of it. Your horses have been updated quite a bit as well, and this particular horse is wearing iron armor, which I think looks really cool and really intimidating. Moving on, we've got our redstone. This is the redstone row. So you have your daylight sensor, and you could toggle it obviously between the different modes. You've got your iron trapdoor and your iron door. Again, can't get over this enough or speak enough about this. I love the color and the way that he did all of the iron gear or iron blocks in this texture pack. This is just, I mean, it's got to be one of my favorite things about this texture pack. You have your observer, you have your dropper, and your dispenser. The only thing I've been able to tell between the two of these really is that the dispenser has kind of almost looks like broken or jagged top to it, and the dropper is much smoother. Other than that, they look exactly the same. You've got your note block again, and now you've got your pistons. You have both your sticky and your regular piston, and we're going to grab a block of redstone because just to see what the piston part of it itself. You got your piston head, and then you got the piston, I guess, or the piston pillar. I don't know what to call it. That's what it looks like. It kind of carries that sort of stone iron theme to it. What I think would actually be an impossible improvement would to see this part of this texture have more of that ruddy, rusty iron look to it. Not a complaint because you don't really use these during actual builds, but this would look pretty cool. I mean, you could power this and have that as an actual building structure block, something that you wouldn't really be able to do with the vanilla texture packs. You have your comparator and your repeater, and then you have your hopper, again, carrying that rusty iron sort of look to it. Now you've got your line of redstone dust, which I think looks kind of cool. It looks almost like it's been haphazardly just tossed down, and then when you turn it on, it does have a slightly different coloration than the regular redstone. It honestly looks kind of bloody to me, like it's kind of boiling blood, and yeah, let's turn that off. That's kind of creepy. And you have your redstone torch. Looks very similar to your regular torch. Of course, it's red. And now it's time to go into the Hall of Mobs, because this texture pack or resource pack is one of the ones that has custom mobs, which is awesome. And I love the new skins on most of them. Not every mob has a new skin, and I don't know if every mob is going to get a new skin, but the ones that do have new skins, I think, are pretty fantastic. So we're going to real quick turn the volume down so that we don't have to listen to them, and we're going to go check them out. First up is the zombie. As you can tell, the zombie has now become a pumpkin, so it's a pumpkin zombie. Really kind of spooky looking. I mean, you can see ribs poking out through his skin down there. The drowned looks mostly the same. I think it may have slightly different colors than a vanilla drowned. I'd have to double check to be certain. You have the husk, which is turned into a mummy. The skeleton, which it looks like he's crawled right out of the ground. He is much dirtier looking than he would look in the vanilla textures. The stray, which again looks, the first thing that pops in my mind is a Draugr from Skyrim. Oop, let's put that back there. You have your wither skeleton, which see if he'll turn and face us. He's a little spooky looking, spooky boy. You have your zombie pigmen, which are absolutely terrifying. That is one of the scariest things I think I've seen out of this texture pack. That is horrifying. And you've got your zombie villager. As you can also tell, the zombie villager has a pumpkin for a head because the regular villagers have pumpkins for heads. Next, you've got the evoker. That is just frightening. Please stop looking at me. Your spiders, which look more or less the same as they do. They've got slightly different texture. They've got a lot more eyes. They're a little spookier looking, but overall, mostly the same. Your pillagers have not been updated as of yet, but I'm sure that is coming. Your slime, which is now a hopping pumpkin. The Vindicator, which has a sort of Jason Voorhees sort of look to it, although his mask is a skull mask, not a hockey goalie mask. Your Witch, which is frightening. Your Blaze, which also has a pumpkin for a head now. If he would come and turn and face me, that would be great. He looks frightening, terrifying. The blaze rods, I guess, are what those are spinning around. To me, kind of look like candles in this one, which I think is just really cool looking. Your creeper is now a floating ghost. I did not realize when I first started playing with this texture pack that that's what these guys were, and so he came up to me and blew up, and it was not pleasant. I thought it was a zombie, and it was not. It was the creeper. You've got your magma cube, which looks a lot closer to your magma block, which I think makes plenty of sense, and I think that's an actual texture that would look better in the vanilla texture pack than the current one does. And then you've got the Phantom, which I haven't been able to tell any difference. I don't think that there is an update on the Phantoms. Finally, we're going to go ahead and we're going to do a couple of things. We are going to spawn in an Enderman and an Endermite. And we'll see. The Endermen with these shaders, you can't really tell, but they have pumpkins for heads and kind of a spooky, hollow-looking body. The Endermites also have a slightly different texture than they do in the vanilla pack. They look kind of angry, honestly. We're going to go and hop over through the magic of video editing over to the Beyond Vanilla server, take a look around our spawn island to see what these textures actually look like in real builds. So I will see you guys over there. Alright, starting off as always in my house at spawn here in the Beyond Vanilla server. You can tell I look pretty terrifying with that diamond helmet on, but we're going to leave it on just for safety's sake. Let's just start taking a look. So as you can see, I used the birch doors here, so those look pretty cool here. The rest of this is actually regular concrete, so it doesn't have nearly as much of a smooth texture as it does in the vanilla texture pack. And of course I've got my chest monster and my lanterns up above. Let's go look around and see what everything else looks like. You have the bank. That's a mostly quartz building with spruce, I think is the other wood. Yeah, that's definitely a spruce trapdoor. One build that I do think actually doesn't look too different than what it looks like in the vanilla texture pack is Mallow's bookstore. It is, I mean, it definitely looks amazing. It looked amazing in the vanilla texture pack, but it looks pretty cool here as well. And I think that just kind of goes to show that it doesn't really matter what textures you're using. If you're a good builder, your build's going to look good almost no matter what. You have our community enchanting building, which I really like the way this looks. I know I said that I wasn't a huge fan of the stained glass being that saturated or vibrant when I was over in my testing world, but this actually looks pretty cool. Well, this is new. Spoilers for Beyond Vanilla, that is a brand new building. Moving on, we've got our shulker shop, the Shulker's Demise. This is my end dimension loot store, and the only thing I really have to say about this is that with the mob heads not having changed between the different texture packs is that they look way too saturated. I think if they weren't here, this would actually look really cool, just like I think it looks pretty cool in the vanilla textures as well. You have Maple's Craft Shop, so we're going to hop in here to see what some of the wool kind of looks like in context of an actual store or of an actual build. And I still think that it's just a little bit too bright and a little bit too clean. It does look kind of cool with the carpet kind of looking like it was stitched together with different carpet squares, but as a whole, I think that the wool and the banners look fine, but I think that the wool and the carpet really could use a little bit of kind of dirtying up and kind of grungifying. The Flower Plains biome, I think, looks really, really cool. That is still gorgeous. I think it looks cool in the vanilla textures, but I think it also looks really neat here. My cactus shop, however, it would probably look better with more contrast if I actually finished it with all the rest of the end rods that I was going to stick all over it, but that is not my favorite look. That Yeah, I don't like that look at all. And again, you can make these things look way nicer, and it's all about whether or not you're a good builder. I am not a good builder, so my build doesn't look good in every texture pack. But again, also, some things that you might build in this texture pack with a lot of that granite being recolored would not look good. They just kind of clashed with some of the colors of the vanilla textures. So it's just kind of interesting to see what the different stuff looks like with different texture packs. One thing I do really want to see is Sheep's pirate ship. Let's just kind of fly around a little bit. This looks really cool. And we're through the clouds. I love that. I think that looks super fancy, super fancy. And of course, Face Wrecker's ship as well. The textures for the wool actually work pretty well in that respect, but not so much, in my opinion, just about anywhere else. With all of that, though, that is about all I have time for today. We kind of bounced around, reviewed the PumpkinPatch texture pack. It's definitely an established pack, and Staple Shots definitely knows what he's doing and has made a gorgeous texture pack. Definitely think that there's room for improvement, but where isn't there room for improvement? Nothing is ever going to be perfect, and this one I think is still one of my top overall packs. Really fun one, really fun to play with. I just crashed into a tree, but overall, I would say this is probably one of the top ones that I've seen, and I love the fact that he is continuously updating it and continuously working on it. But with that all being said, that is all I've got time for today. And if you guys liked this video, want to see more reviews, then please go ahead, like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz, and I will catch you all next time.